Move on to chapter 13 of the Pratico and Van Pelt Basics of Biblical Hebrew Grammar, in this case, the workbook that goes along with it. So here's the bibliography. And we're going to be looking at chapter 13 of the workbook here. So here is chapter 13. We have our nice numbers here. Shilosha 3, Asar 10. So the first one here is not too interesting. We've been seeing nothing but these so far. It's the Cal Perfect 3MS, and the root is katav, kaf, tau, bait, to write. And this would just be he wrote. Nothing too dramatic about that. These Cal Perfects in general will not have anything before them. The perfect is also called the suffix form because we identify them mainly by their suffixes. Of course, this one doesn't have a suffix, but the next one does. So we have here radafu. Here's our suffix, this shurek. Nothing before it, so it looks a lot like a Cal Perfect. There's also a few other characteristics here. We have this vocal schwa in the second syllable, and this little vertical line here is telling us that that is a vocal schwa. So radafu, that little line is called a meteg. The schwa is not a syllable divider. That would make that a short vowel. A short O would be road, or perhaps rod, depending on what grammar you're using, but it would be a short O. But this is ra, it's a long A, and then the vocal schwa, radafu. And that ending is very characteristic of a third common plural. And the root here is radaf. We have to write those carefully to distinguish a resh from a dalet and then a final pay. In this case, notice that the pay is no longer final because it's got an ending. But when I write the root, it's got a final pay. So radaf, and that would be translated, they pursued. So radaf is to pursue. We see it in Exodus 15. The Pharaoh's army pursued after the Israelites. Let's look at number 4. We've got zakarta. Zakarta. Notice the tone syllable is the second to last, and this ending is very characteristic of a perfect verb and 2MS in particular. So nothing before it. So Cal Perfect, and it's going to be a 2MS. When you see that ta with a comments underneath it at the end of a word, you're pretty much guaranteed that you've got you have a perfect, not necessarily a Cal Perfect. It could be another stem as well, but a perfect 2MS. And our root here is zakar, which means to remember. So this would be translated, you remembered. You, masculine singular, remembered. Okay, let's look at the next one. This is interesting. Notice again we have the little vertical line, the meteg, that is telling us that this is a vocal schwa. And so again we have this vowel reduction of the second vowel, and we have yalada, yalada. And this hey ending is very characteristic of that 3FS ending, third feminine singular. So we have and again, nothing before it. The yod is part of the root. So Cal Perfect, and the vowels match the Cal. Third feminine singular, and our root is yalad. Okay, so yalad is to bear, like to bear a child. And so this would be she bore. Normally you'd have a direct object after that. She bore a child. Number 6 looks very much like number 4. The only difference is that the ending is a tav with a silent shawah. So we have zakart. Zakart. Actually, we have 2 silent shawahs next to each other. Zakart. And this is very similar to number 4, except that instead of being cal perfect to ms, it's to fs. So when you see that tau with a silent schwa underneath it, very much like the tau with the commas underneath it, you're thinking perfect 2fs. And the root is the same as it was up there. It's zakar. So this would be you feminine remembered. So maybe talking to a woman, you remembered. Let's look at number 7. Do a couple more here. So we have kavatsti. Kavatsti. Notice the accent is telling us that the second to last syllable is accented. So kavatsti. And this T ending is very characteristic of a perfect first common singular. And so I can almost fill that in without thinking about it. And the vowels match a cal. So cal perfect first common singular. The root is kavats. Notice that I have to use a final sade because it's coming at the end of the root. So kavats, that is gather or collect. So this would be I collected. That's how I would translate that one. I collected. Let's look at the next one here, number 8, and we'll see another characteristic ending here, this 10 ending. Very characteristic of a perfect second feminine plural ending. So we have yashar 10, yashar 10. And in this case, the vowels look very much like a cal. We haven't seen any other stems, at least not in detail, but what we're going to be focusing on is cal. So this is going to be a cal perfect, and that will be a second feminine plural, and the root is yashav, so that yod is part of the root, yashav, to dwell or to sit. And so this is going to be you all, feminine, dwelt or sat. Okay, let's look at number 9. We'll do 2 more here. So we have shamarnu. Shamarnu. Again, we have the accent marked in the second to last syllable, the pretonic syllable, shamarnu, and our new ending, this is the same ending that we have as for a pronominal suffix. So this is not quite as easy. We might have to look a little closer to see what our vowels are and what's going on with the verb. The vowels look a lot like a cal perfect. So I'm going to say it's a cal perfect first common plural. The new is the first common plural pronominal suffix, so you don't have to learn anything different in terms of the fact that it relates to first common plural. It's just that it's also being used for the ending of a perfect verb that's first common plural. And the root here is shamar, so sheen, mem, resh, and that means to guard or to keep, and so this would just be a we kept, we guarded. Let's do one last one here for practice. So we have zikartem, zikartem. This tem ending is very characteristic of a perfect two masculine plural or second masculine plural. And the vowels match cal. So I have a cal perfect second masculine plural. And the root is Zayin Kaf Resh. So Zakar. And that would be remember. So this would be 2MP, you all masculine, remembered. So there's some examples of cal perfect verbs and how to parse them. Let's move on down to translating some of these sentences. These are not Bible sentences, but they're something like them, and we'll do a few of these just to get some practice. So we are now on, this is section 3, we're on page 50 of the workbook. Let's do number 1 just to get it warmed up here. So let me read this. We have Shemartem et hatorot. Shemartem et hatorot. Okay, so we parse this. Notice the tem ending. And so that tells us it's a 2MP ending. And the vowels tell us it's a cal perfect 2MP. And the root is shamar, to guard or to keep. And then we have definite article. And then torot, which is the plural of Torah or law. So let's type out the translation for this. We have you all, you masculine plural, kept or guarded maybe, probably kept the laws. Okay, relatively simple sentence, but it illustrates, oh, and I should mention too that the et here, again, this is the direct object marker. So it is indicating that hatarot is the direct object of our verb, shemartem. Okay, the second one is very similar. Ma'atsu et ha'enashim. So ma'atsu et ha'enashim. All right, so ma'atsu, this has got that form with the shurik at the end, and I recognized matzah as a root for find. So let's write that out. This is cal perfect third common plural. That's what that shurik is telling us. And then et, that is our direct object marker. And then ha and ashim. And that is our irregular plural for men. So again, here's the direct object marker, and then we have definite article plus noun, the men. So they found the men. All right, so we type that out. They found the men. I'm not sure how interesting that is, but at least it illustrates a few of our verbs. Okay, number 4 is interesting because it has a construct chain as the object of the verb. So let's take a look at this. We have zakart et divrei haniviim. So zakart et divrei haniviim. So here we have our verb. The tau with the silent schwa is a dead giveaway that we're looking at 2fs, second feminine singular, and the vowels match our cal, so we have a cal perfect second feminine singular, Then we have our direct object marker, et. Then we have this divrei hanaviim. Well, divrei is a plural construct of davar, so that becomes words. And then hanaviim is going to be our absolute noun in this construct chain, which is the prophets. So we're going to get then, if we type this out, we'll get, and zakar is to remember. So you, feminine singular, remembered, and then it'll be the words because the hanaviim has a definite article, so the whole construct chain is definite. You remembered the words of the prophets. So that was interesting because you have, the object really is words, but you kind of have a compound direct object there.
The words of the prophets.
Let's move down to page 51 and look at a couple of Bible verses. Just get some practice here. We're actually now beginning to translate Bible verses, which is really the point of all this. So we have number one here. We have Malach Elohim al Goyim. Elohim Yashav al Kasei Kadsho.
Or as I was taught to pronounce it, code show, to show that that is an O class vowel at the beginning.
So Malach Elohim al Goyim, and I think there's going to be a pause there. Elohim Yashav al Kasei Kodsho.
And our textbook would say it, cod show.
In any case, it's the short O, the Kametz Hatuf. So what do we have here? We have the verb malach, and that's going to be a Cal Perfect 3MS. So that is it's a Cal Perfect. We can take that for granted for right now. 3MS, and it matches our masculine singular subject, God. And then we have Elohim, which is God. So malach is rule. God rules. And then we have al goyim. So al goyim, over nations. We might say the nations, but there's no definite article here. So goyim is the plural of goy. And so we have masculine plural, goyim, God rules all over nations.
Let's look briefly at this word goyim, because it's an irregular plural. So the word itself, goy, is a gimel, holam wow, and yod, like that. So if we were to follow our normal plural rules, we would add a hirik yod to this, followed by a final mem. So we'd have goyim. I'll put a star by that because it doesn't really ever occur that way. Instead, this is written a little bit differently, so it's an irregular plural. Instead, we just add a hirik under the yod, followed by a final mem. So it becomes goyim. Sounds very similar, but rather than a hirik yod, we just have a hirik followed by the mem. Now we can look that up if we need to and verify that. So if we pull up our accordance, we can look it up in a lexicon. So here's accordance, and I could just look up that verse, which is Psalm 47:9. So here it is, highlighted in red for the number. We'll come over to Goyim, and I can look at the bottom and it will tell me with the instant details, or I can do a single click for a second and it'll bring up Noun, common, masculine, plural, absolute means nation, but let's take a look at the lexicon now. So I'm going to do a triple click. 1, 2, 3. My triple click default is the Concise Dictionary of Classical Hebrew. Here's the entry right here. So we have goy, and notice that it gives us the plural here, and it shows us this irregular spelling of the plural. Now, if I wanted to look this up without finding the verbs, I can come over to the top here of the lexicon here. There's a search bar, and in the blue-gray oval, I want it to say Hebrew entry, and that's the default if I do a triple click, but it might not be that otherwise. Well, let's go somewhere else so I can prove that I'm actually getting there. So we'll go to Eretz. Now I'm going to come over here and put my cursor at the far left, and then I'm going to hit backspace. Another way to do that is just to highlight the whole thing. In any case, backspace, delete, get rid of everything. And now I'm going to type in GW, and that is what's going to give me the wow, Y. So GWY, and then enter, and that will then get me here to this entry. There is an entry above it. It's another word, gavi, which is body, but we're looking for the noun goy, which means nation or people. So here's the entry here. So we can verify then that the plural goyim is in fact the correct spelling for the plural form of goy. So goyim is then peoples. Let's check one other thing here in Psalm 47:9. So here we have the word goyim, and underneath that word you see a little sign called an atnach, which is like a caret sign, and it is a hard pause. And so there is indeed a pause in this sentence between goyim and the next word, Elohim. So coming back over to our workbook, I'll write in that punctuation.
There's an atnach right in there, which makes a pause between two sections, kind of like a hard stop, maybe a semicolon. Then we have Elohim Yashav. Notice that we have Elohim is God. We have the subject, God, coming before the verb, Yashav. This is another Cal Perfect 3MS. It has to match the subject. Notice here that God is technically plural, but we have a singular verb. This shows us that the Hebrews considered Elohim, when it's talking about capital G God, to be singular. But here we're saying that the subject, Elohim, is being treated as singular, even though it's got a plural ending. Okay, so we have God dwells, and here the subject is coming before the verb. So we have God dwells, and we have al again. Notice over here we translated this over, like God rules over or above the nations. And here we have God dwells or God sits. Probably al would be more like on or upon here, because what we have here is kaseh, which is throne. So we have a throne. Now this is actually going to be interesting. This is a construct that goes together with this. This is a construct chain. We have holiness, and then we have the 3ms pronominal suffix on the end. So it becomes kodsho.
Let's take a look at this word in a little more detail. So the original word is Kodesh. So Kof, Dalet, and Sheen. And that's got a holum, long O, this is a dalet, and a segol, and there is an accent on this first syllable. This is a segolet, so it's kodesh. And when we add a pronominal suffix, so we're going to add this 3ms pronominal suffix, which is a holem wow, we get rid of the accent. This vowel shortens from a long O to a short O. So that's not a kametz, that's not a long A, that's a short O. And then this segol converts to a silent schwa. Actually, technically a medial schwa, but that's a little bit too complicated for right now. So we get code show. So that's a short O. Actually, the textbook would pronounce that cod show. This kametz hatuf, short O vowel. But in any case, this is the form that we get when we add the pronominal suffix to that noun.
This becomes His holiness, and we have that in construct with kase. So kase is the construct, kodsho is the absolute, and it's definite because it's got a pronominal suffix. So we have then the throne of His holiness. So let's type that out. God rules over nations, and I'll put a period there, and then God sits, I could say dwells or sits, on the throne of his holiness. And we could also translate this as his holy throne. That's a possible translation. So literally the throne of his holiness. We could also say his holy throne. If a noun like holiness has a corresponding adjective, holy, we can sometimes translate using that adjective. So his holy throne. Like the mountain of his holiness, we could say his holy mountain.
One final note, I translated the first verb as God rules rather than God ruled.
The perfect can be used for present tense depending on context. Let's look at number 2. So we have Batachti bechesed Elohim olam. All right, Psalm 52:10. Notice that it's got two different numbers here. This is the Hebrew verse number. The 8 is the English verse number. And in the Psalms in particular, the verse numbers get messed up because the little superscriptions, the little pieces that we see in our English Bible up above the numbers, those have numbers in the Hebrew Bible. So it throws the numbers off sometimes. All right, so batachti, notice the T ending. Actually, there should be an accent there. This should be batachti. So there should be an accent right there. Batachti. And then there should be one here as well, actually. Bechesed Elohim olam. Okay, so we've got a couple of accents that are in the Masoretic text. They didn't get translated over into this exercise. That's not a big deal. But the accent does help us to identify the verb here, batachti. That T ending is very characteristic of a perfect first common singular, and it is a cal. So this is I trusted, or maybe I trust. The Psalms in particular, sometimes the perfects will be present tense. Then we have the preposition bait. Notice it's coming after a vowel here, and there's no dagesh leni. This is how the Psalm has it. So coming after a vowel, sometimes you won't see a dagesh leni. So actually this should be batachti vikesed, not bikesed. I read it wrong. It should be vikesed. I'm very used to reading a hard B at the beginning of a word, but technically that should be vikesed with a V sound. And this is loving kindness. So I trust in, and Elohim is technically indefinite. There's no definite article. So I could do this as in loving kindness of God. So I trust in loving kindness of God. I would probably say for English, the loving kindness of God. And then olam is forever. So let me type that out. I trust in the loving kindness of God forever. It could be also, I have trusted in the loving kindness of God forever, but it might even be, I will trust in the loving kindness of God forever. The perfect is a little bit flexible, particularly in the Psalms, particularly in poetry. The perfect tense can be more flexible, and we look at it based on context. So I trust, or I will trust, or I have trusted in the loving kindness of God forever. Let's do one more here. We'll look at Genesis 15:18. So let's read this verse. Bayom hahu karat Adonai et Avram berit lemor lezaracha, coming over to the next line, natati et haaretz hazot. So bayom hahu. So we have yom, and then we have this demonstrative, far demonstrative, that. So we have in, preposition, yom day, hahu. So in that day, bayom hahu. Then we have karat, that is a cal perfect 3ms verb, and it matches the Lord, that's the subject, that's also masculine singular. So they match. And then we have the, well, this is interesting because this is not a direct object marker. This is the preposition. So this is with. Now, how do I know that? Well, because we've got cut, so the Lord cut, and I've got another noun here, berit, which is covenant. And so if this was a direct object marker, what I'd have would be literally,
The Lord cut Abram a covenant, which would almost make sense in English, but it is not how this is typically said in Hebrew. Hebrew normally speaks of cutting a covenant with someone.
cutting him. And so what we're saying here is the Lord cut a covenant.
With Abram.
So I'm going to translate this not as direct object marker, but as the preposition with. So to cut a covenant is a very common phrase or term in the Old Testament. So I'm expecting karat to match up with covenant.
This is followed by lemor, which is an infinitive construct with a lamed preposition, but it means saying. It's very common in the Old Testament. And it's equivalent in many ways to having quotation marks. Saying, Lazaracha. We can see the noun there, zera, seed.
So we have our preposition lamed, to, and then we have this cha, which is characteristic of a 2ms pronominal suffix. And so we have to your seed, and then down here we have natati, and that is natan. This is an example of a weak verb. And natan is actually a notoriously fickle and strange verb, but here the final noon drops out and gets sort of absorbed by the ending here. So this is natati. It literally would be natanti, but I think the Hebrews didn't like to pronounce that, so they just dropped the noon out. So the root is natan, but it's natati, and it'd be I have given. Natan is to give, and the T ending is our typical.
First common singular ending.
So natati, I have given. This is a direct object marker. So et, and then haaretz hazot, this land. We've seen that before. So hazot is our feminine singular demonstrative pronoun, matches the feminine singular noun, eretz. So let me just type that out. We have in that day. So remember we started out here with bayom hahu. The hahu is the far demonstrative. So be in that day. And then the Lord cut a covenant with, well, it's Avram, Abram, not, he hasn't been named Abraham yet. And that day the Lord cut a covenant with Abraham, or Abram, saying, to your seed I have given this land. So to your seed I have given this land.
Notice that I translated natati as I have given rather than I gave. So there's that present perfect idea rather than simple past tense. And it seems to make more sense in this context.